Today's COVID update is brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
And we're back, and we are moving into our conversation for this morning with the Vice President of the Public Service Union. We're joined by Dean Flowers. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Marlene.
Good morning, Dean.
How are you doing?
Doing great, thank you. Well rested. Favorite day of the day, Monday. Sorry, favorite day of the week.
Yeah, the day to set everything in motion. Well, we ended off in what seemed like a bit of uncertainty when it came to the government and union negotiations. We heard from the president of the BNTU, and now we get to hear from you directly as to what exactly took place that has left us in what seems like a stalemate.
I thought about the situation over the weekend, starting with when the Prime Minister stated that, in a sense, we were back at square one. And I would have to agree with what the sister from the BNTU said, the president of the BNTU. To the best of our knowledge, we don't believe that we're back at square one. On the contrary, we believe that the meeting held with the Prime Minister and the Financial Secretary and his team was a success. We believe that the impasse that existed no longer exists. And the wording of the agreement coming out of the meeting that was sent to us, which the Prime Minister stated at his press conference, did not necessarily sit well with them, or at least they were, as Sister Elena rightly said, there was the use of the word deferred versus the word foregone. We don't believe that that is a good enough reason for us to be back at square one. And so we have since reconsidered our position where the use of the word defer is concerned. And we've said, look, the general content of the agreement is what is important, and the meat of this agreement will be hashed out going forward, with us doing what we need to do to ensure that this economy rebounds and that government changes its policy where the current wastage and, if I can say, reckless spending in the public service is concerned. So,
part of what I wanted to discuss. Our last conversation last week, you were very much critical of the spending that takes place within government and at the proposal of giving up a yearly increment. You pointed out to many areas of inefficiencies where you'd also wanted to see some cost saving taking place. Now, all indications after Wednesday when you met virtually with the Prime Minister was that one, things were cordial, and two, that you were able to work out some sort of arrangement. So tell us, what you were able to achieve in being able to communicate, especially the inefficiencies and how they can increase the cost saving that we're working towards.
Okay, well, I must say that the Prime Minister was very welcoming of the initial cost savings measures that we had proposed. He readily said that he has looked at them and he's in agreement that some of them are good to go. He has asked that we look at putting together a committee which will comprise of both the union and official side, and that the details and implementation of those, and also more importantly, the monitoring of those over the short, medium, and long term can be hashed out. And for me, that's a win. And I think that, as I said,
so you're saying there's no commitment to these measures. There's a commitment to form a committee to look at these measures in the future. Is that what I'm understanding?
there is a commitment for the setting up of a committee, and in the TOR of that committee is whereby the details will be in terms of how we go about implementing these cost savings measures, as well as monitoring the rebound of the economy.
Let me
And so
ask a
that is the
question.
need of the matter.
Let me ask you a question here based on an observation that appears to be quite obvious to many who are watching from the outside. You're looking at being able to identify certain areas where you could scale down on wastage and what have you. But the government itself, for the most part, is made up of public officers, right? So essentially, you would be looking at your colleagues to say, well, these are some of the areas where you guys have to be able to curtail your expenses, correct?
Exactly, Isani, exactly. We will have to embark on an educational campaign whereby we do what we need to do as a union to properly inform and educate our membership on the importance of cost saving measures, and also more importantly on the importance of enhancing revenue collection, and as we have been brainstorming, the importance of doing the right thing. And so we definitely look forward to putting our heads together and see how we can come up with creative ways of motivating public officers to be more productive and more conscientious while
Let me ask a follow-up question to that, but from another angle here. Within the broader membership of the Public Service Union, I would want to think that perhaps not all public officers are in agreement with the position taken by the executive insofar as these negotiations, right? Perhaps there are some who would willingly want to waive altogether whatever increments they would have been eligible for given the existing state of affairs. What is the difficulty, in your opinion, why this can't be so as a general rule, to say, you know what, we fully understand that the government is on its knees, the economy is on its knees, and that it takes a collective effort from all of us to work together. In lieu of that, I can step away from my increment this year. Explain to us what is the difficulty in that collective mindset?
Okay, I think that from my personal perspective, Isani, and I think I would go on a limb here and say even from the union perspective, I think as a general rule, we all agree as public officers, or the vast majority of public officers agree that as public servants, we need to make a sacrifice. And the Public Service Union, since day one, has not said that we ought not to make a sacrifice. We have been prepared to defer, or we were always prepared to defer the increment, which would have meant foregoing the increment, which would have resulted in financial loss to every single public officer. And we were not against that. It was simply a matter of, as the Prime Minister said, he believed that we should forego it completely. And we were saying, we would like to make that sacrifice, but we would like to reduce the ultimate cost to us. So I think all public officers in general are of the view that yes, sacrifice. So
to be fair though, Dean, that has been communicated multiple times by several of the union leadership, that you in fact have always said that you are open to doing your part in cutting down. But the critical issue here, and I really want to be able to understand it better, is the difference between what that cut would be. So the government proposed 1 year, no increments. You were very clear in being able to communicate your position last week in saying that losing an increment in 1 year, which may be less than 100, for example, actually results in thousands of dollars in losses at the point of retirement. So therefore, you proposed deferring 3 to 5 years, and with the stipulation that the economy would recover and whatnot. What was actually agreed to in that meeting?
What was actually agreed to, in essence, is that we will look at the recovery of the economy. And so, in my view, it is no different from when the union entered negotiations with the government back in 2014,
Yeah.
whereby our increments hinged on the performance of the economy, and that
Yes.
was the first time that we saw the formulation of the cost savings committees, the revenue enhancement committees, and so it's no different from that period of time. So we've been down this road before,
Yeah.
and so we're confident that we will pull
Yes,
together.
but like Senator Smith said on Friday, words matter. And forego means, very simply, you won't get it. Defer means you won't get it now, but you'll get it later. So what was agreed to?
It was agreed that we will forego the increment, Marlene, because, as I stated earlier, we realized that we have been dragged into a discussion that is focusing primarily on an increment, which, as the Prime Minister rightly said, is a drop in the bucket, and we've lost focus of the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that we have a big government, we have a wasteful government, we have a public service that is not as productive as it ought to be, and so we're now getting back to what's important, and we will not allow the discussions to continue, so that the bigger issue here, which is addressing the economy, addressing how the public service function, continues to be derailed.
So I'm a bit, for clarity, as far as it has been communicated so far by the Prime Minister and the President of the BNTU, the issue was about the word forego. So if you're saying that you agreed to forego, which means not get your increment, now, never, then what is the issue in terms of the agreement on the table?
In the meeting, when we had the meeting, all right, we had discussed forego versus defer. It was our view when I kind of presented to the official side that if it is that we were looking at perhaps factoring in that increment or getting back that increment at the point of retirement, then it's a deferment of the increment and not a foregoing of the increment. And I think at that point in time, we held a discussion, and the official side agreed that, okay, for clarity or simplistic communication, let's use the word defer. And so in our view, we knew we would be, we wouldn't be getting the increment, and that the situation would have been revisited at the point of retirement. So where the confusion lies.
So you're saying in the meeting, you agreed to use the wording defer, which
Yes.
means not now, but later.
Yeah.
And instead, the document came back saying forego, which means not now and never.
Yes, and so, but the catch within the document is that the government is prepared to revisit the situation if and when the economy rebounds. So, in essence, that puts us on good footing that, look, we could get back this increment within 5 years, within maybe less. We don't know. What needs to happen is that we need to do what we need to do to be able to either get back this increment or get a higher increase, because it may be that our insistence on improving the efficiency within the public service may yield considerable savings and may yield higher revenues for government. And by the grace of God, hopefully, we'll be in a better position in years to come. And that would
So
then
let me ask you this then.
renegotiate.
Essentially what this does is this will bind whatever successive administration there is, right? Doesn't have to be this particular UDP administration. It could be a PUP or whatever other administration down the road. And so if we're looking at economic recovery, first and foremost, to be able to then revisit the idea of now being able to pay the public officers their due increments, what's to say that whenever that time comes, there'll be another deferral? They could say, well, you know what? Our economy still isn't where we need it to be because the effects or the consequences of the whole COVID-19 crisis, we're still on the up and up. It'll be another situation where they can kick it down the road again.
Yes, Isani, you're perfectly right. However, and that's why the monitoring mechanism for us is what's important. Our participation in the decision-making processes is what's important. Because being involved in that process will give us the opportunity to have a voice at the table and to say, wait, we have the numbers, we've been participating in this process over the course of the years, and we don't share that view. And so I am not of the view that it would be as the situation is right now, whereby we're hearing a lot of numbers being thrown out, but we're having difficulty reconciling these numbers. And so formulating the committee would put us in a better position going forward to be able to agree and issue joint statements with the government as to whether or not the economy is in fact hemorrhaging or improving or healing, you know.
Dean, but how do you get a head start? And I want to come back to find out what your unions are saying about going ahead with the wording for go versus deferring, because that was very clearly articulated by the BNTU president on Friday that seemed to have been a sticking issue. But you keep on talking about the committee that would be put together to look at some of the cost-saving measures. Now, what was communicated on Thursday by the Prime Minister is very clear. We are facing a deficit that there needs to be cuts. There needs to be a real downsizing in terms of expenses to be able to meet things like just your base salary. Is a committee the most effective way? Because if we look at the track records of committees being put together to look at finances and make recommendations, that's not going to meet the end of the month deadline by the time some of these payments are due.
Hence the reason I said earlier, Marlene, that the conversation got twisted, whereby the reforms and the monitoring mechanisms should have been at the forefront of the discussion and not necessarily the increment. Yes, the increment has financial value to public officers, but I think that ultimately, if we change the way how we do things, the increment itself could be taken care of. And so, in regards to your view in terms of whether or not the committee would be the most proper mechanism to look at the situation, then perhaps going forward, perhaps the union can make suggestions such as bringing on board the private sector. We have seen releases from the private sector, releases from the BBB, releases from other political entities. Clearly, Marlene, the unions and the government does not have all the solutions. So perhaps we need to look at all possible angles, look at this thing from all possible angles, and bring on board any and everybody that would be able to help. So for the time being, clearly the government and the union will be formulating a committee. The onus is now on us, the union.
My question isn't about, I think, just to be clear, if I could rephrase it, do you believe that it will be effective and effective immediately?
Yes, I believe it will be effective because that is the only.
And immediately?
Immediately, the Prime Minister is clear that even if he was to implement immediately some of the cost savings measures that we are suggesting, that it would not yield the kind of savings or the kind of slashes that would be required to meet the immediate obligation. So clearly, the approach has to be twofold. It has to be significantly looking at how we reduce our spending, while at the same time seeing how we improve our revenues. And we have not had an extensive discussion publicly with regards to that area, revenue enhancement. And so clearly the Prime Minister has said, look, we could cut here, cut there, and cut everywhere, but it will not yield the kind of savings. So, so to answer your question, clearly it will help, but it will not fix the situation. We have to look at both cost savings as well as revenue enhancement. And as we already know, we have a lot of leakages in the system, and we can be more efficient in bumping up our revenue collection. And so that will be the work for the committee, and that's why I said that the important thing going forward is for us to look at this committee and, more importantly, craft the terms of reference of this committee in such a way that it will be all-encompassing and that we as union reach out to the private sector and any other organization that will be able to help us and guide us in recovering this economy.
So the intention was to be able to discuss with the membership whether you would agree to the document that's put forward based on the negotiation that you had on Wednesday. As I said, we interviewed the president of the BNT on Friday, and she did express that she would go back to her membership, one, but two, that there would be concerns about the word forego. On behalf of the PSU, what is the indication? Are you deciding to move ahead with the current wording? Are you going to request a change in the wording? What is the next step?
The next step is full steam ahead with the recovery, with working on the recovery.
No, I'm asking about the wording issue.
For the agreement.
Is it agreed that you will go ahead with forego or demand defer?
Yeah, I think that I thought I had made it clear that we will not be backed down with the word forego versus defer.
Is this a collective union decision or just the PSU?
It's a collective union decision. Okay. I'm pretty quite sure that before the end of the day, something official will be coming out of the Ministry of Finance where that matter is concerned. We cannot allow this conversation to continue, Marlene, simply because one party would like the word deferment versus foregoing. What we need to focus about is that whether you use defer or whether you use forego, it does not remove the opportunity for us to recover this increment or for us to get a higher increment if and when this economy rebounds. And that is where our focus will be now. So we will not allow...
I think just before you move off of that, you keep on saying maybe there'll be a higher increment. In the last negotiations, you also included the one that you speak of very clearly where the increments were tied to the status of the economy. And there, you guys went at length to be able to clearly define what percentage or at what point and what percentage you would then be able to get these increased benefits. Are you also looking to be able to include that in these negotiations or in this official agreement? Because, and again, I believe Senator Smith said it on Friday, words do matter. And contracts or agreements or written or signed documents that are unclear can very easily lead to loopholes in the future. So you may be told now that you may be able to get a higher increment, but as Isania mentioned, there will be a change because Prime Minister Barrow will no longer be the leader of the country at some point in time. And so whoever is facing that decision may decide how they want to interpret that. So how do you ensure security for your union members when there's a bit of a gray area?
Okay, well, the conversation right now hinges solely on the increment, right? And that's a 2.5% on average that everybody gets. So that's where the focus is at this moment, that at minimum, at bare minimum, if we do what we need to do, and that if we reform ourselves and how we operate in the public sector, that we will get at a minimum of 2.5. But what if we outperform?
At what point, though? I feel that you seem to be avoiding responding to this question. because I've asked it in many different ways. How do you ensure that your union members will be able to get their increment or know when they'll get the benefits of that increment? Is it going to be added in at the point of retirement? Is it going to be 5 years from now when, let's all hope that there is a solid economic rebound? Or is it never going to be calculated into their final sum of money when they do retire or leave public service? How do you guarantee that if it's not in the document?
The document, Marlene, will guarantee that the increment is factored into the calculation, the superannuation government. The document will take care of that. Now, getting back the reinstatement of the increment is the issue at hand that hinges on the recovery of the economy. So it's I don't know if you understand clearly what I just said.
You're saying that it will be factored in at retirement?
Yes, to calculate your superannuation benefit.
Okay.
So it will be put into that mix of the calculation, and that is what the committee will work out. So once the committee is formulated, the committee will then come up with that formula. Because remember, beyond in 2021 and beyond, several public officers will be retiring. And so that formula has to be worked out in the immediate, and you will be, and the perm increment will be factored into the mix of the calculation of your superannuation benefit. Now, the reinstatement of that increment that would allow you to be bumped up another salary scale is what is the issue at hand in terms of the recovery of the economy. And so I trust sorry, and I'm sorry if I didn't answer your question.
I just wanted to be clear. You don't want union members sitting home saying, but when will I get it? So the reinstatement of the increments you're saying is going to be decided by the committee that is put together and be tied specifically to economic recovery.
Yes.
So by the end of today, we're going to see an agreement or be aware of an agreement between the unions and the government in looking at cost-saving measures, both in terms of withholding or foregoing increments for this year, and also establishing a committee to look at more cost-saving measures. That's what you're saying to us.
Yes, I have every confidence that I don't see why it has to extend beyond the course of the day, but I expect that public officers will see a final and signed copy of an addendum to Circular 5 that addresses this matter clearly. And what the union has been doing since the meeting is to try to, as much as possible, disseminate this information and explain to public officers and teachers, well, there are also public officers now, to explain to the wider public service that what we agreed to, and like as I said, what should be our focus now? Our focus should not be continuing this debate, because clearly it's getting us nowhere, and it's taking away from wonderful opportunity for us to come together and see how we can fix the way how we do business in the public service.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the update. We do appreciate it. We've seen this issue go full circle now. And we will look forward to hearing the announcement of the agreement by the end of today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. There you have it. That was Dean Flowers, the Vice President of the Public Service Union, providing an update on the union and government negotiations. And definitely we're going to look forward to following that up in the newscast tonight at 6 p.m. But we're going to go ahead and take a break, and we will be back in a few. Stay tuned.
This COVID update was brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
And welcome back to the second segment of our show this morning. We are being joined online by Tanya McNabb, and she is the creative director at McNabb Publishing Limited. Good morning, Tanya.
Good morning. How are you?
I am fine, and you?
Good, good.
All right, so this morning we'll be discussing tourism health standards. Where do we begin from? Can you begin by enlightening us on what this conversation will be? And of course, what are some of the steps that we can look forward to?
Sure, sure. Thank you for having me, first of all. And what we're primarily working on at McNabb Publishing right now is a merger of the existing Caribbean Lifestyle Goal Book that was set to publish at the end of summer, and to convert that into a joint publication between the new health and safety standards that are being developed by the BTB.
Okay.
And so the Belize Tourism Board is the arm responsible for the development of these standards. And our job is to take those standards and to put it into and to join it into a publication that will be selling Belize first, always, as a travel guide, as a travel resource, but also so that potential and arriving visitors are going to be able to see what sort of standards we have put in place and what standards we are requiring our hospitality industry to adapt to. And that can be anything from transportation to airport to hotels, restaurants. And so we're going to take that information and break it down as part of our travel guide so that it's an easy way to absorb. I mean, somebody's not going to particularly want to just pick up a manual of protocols, and so that's where we are on trying to translate it best, because going forward, any messages that come out from any destination have to be messages about health and safety and how destinations are adapting. And so that's the goal of the new tourism health and safety, a new gold standard of travel for Belize.
How do we incorporate these new measures being proposed and put in place by the BTB with universal best practices at a time where we're still developing new ways of addressing tourism now based on COVID-19?
Yes, of course. And so the BTB is the one who is particularly responsible for the development of these new protocols. And so there's going to be a phased system, I believe, which will allow hotels and everybody involved in the industry to be able to get their properties ready to start adapting. And we know that it is a changing target, but we know that there are some specific things that at this point we're sure we already have to implement, right? And that is, largely in housekeeping. There are many different parts to it, but if you just kind of walk through the hotel process, using keys in rooms, is that the best way now? Do we try to do mobile entries? Are our hotels equipped for that? How do we go around that? Also in terms of housekeeping, they must be wearing gloves, and the list goes on, and how we keep social distance. And so it's going to be taking one thing at a time in order to be able to adapt.
This, you say, will be reflected in the upcoming edition of your publication?
Correct. So we were on schedule before the onset of COVID-19 to set out the new Belize Goal Book at the end of summer, end of June, early July. And so, everybody has had to rethink their plans since COVID-19. And so since we were already on track for the end of the summer, this will then be the first publication and the first official marketing collateral that will have these protocols established in a travel guide. And so the BTB is a distribution arm here, and they are going to be having it at the airport for guests. In addition to the actual printed magazines, we have a QR code program that will have you can snap and read all the information in the magazine, but on the back you'll also have information on, you'll be able to have information on the numbers that you can call if you do get sick, if you have an emergency. So it's an important piece of collateral that people are going to keep on them when they're here. There'll be one per family. And the BTB's office at the airport will be distributing that, as well as, of course, we will have everything online at CaribbeanLifestyle.com and travelbelize.org, which is for people to see what these new safety standards are before they even arrive, because we know that it will be a big decision making factor.
What is interesting here is that we seem to be moving full steam ahead in terms of being able to prepare for another tourism season when we're not quite sure, one, when the airports will be open, and two, it's not to say that if and when the airports do open by the end of summer, that visitors would have the kind of, persons would have the kind of disposable income to say they will plan to travel to come to Belize. And so we're going through this process not necessarily knowing what we're facing on the back end.
Absolutely. And that changes very often as things change, particularly in the US, because that is our primary target market. And indeed, there is no set date, but certainly we are going to have to be prepared for when that time comes. I think we know that even when the airports open, we're not going to be seeing the number of flights that we had seen before, but we also can't be unprepared. And we can't, if you've seen any of the you look at destinations like Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Puerto Rico, even the Bahamas, they are publishing their safety standards already. They are putting out, they are becoming prepared. And so if we don't go through this process now so that we are ready, whenever that is, whether it's going to be the end of summer, maybe it's going to be early September, at this point, I am in no position to speak of what that exact time would be, but we have to be certain that we're ready, and it's going to be really important because competing destinations are going to be really pushing forward, and so we're we have to make sure
needs
we
that
don't fall
tourism
behind.
So Tanya, is this an e-magazine, or you're going to publish as well, like print it?
It's going to be both. So it will have an ebook version online, as well as all of the articles and content will come out through Caribbean Lifestyle, through our blogs and all our articles. And then we're going to have 12,000 printed copies of the actual magazine. And that's designed for our travelers who are not so tech savvy. They're not going to pick up a QR code. They're not going to use it. And then we're doing 100,000 of the QR codes in the first instance. So, somebody picks it up, they can snap it. We'll also have signage in key areas where people can just get this information so readily. And they'll be able to use through Caribbean Lifestyle or travelbelize.org the search tools. So if they're looking for any of this information, if they're going to be looking for safety on hotels or whatever it is they're looking for, they'll be able to access it very easily.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because we know publishing right now is in a tricky state because people just don't.
Well, it has been for a while,
they
unfortunately.
don't want to touch things anymore, and I'm thinking of a shared magazine in a room. So, but you're catering primarily for online, and just for those who haven't made the move to technology, they'll be able to use that.
But yes, and so that's why we kept that as a limited number, just knowing that nobody's going to want to be touching anything extra right now.
But looking forward, I think that you're right. We need to prepare for whenever it is that we'll be ready to open the borders and start to safely accept tourists again. So your publication, it's done several times through the year, because I'd imagine this information may be updated. We're 6 months into this pandemic, which means 6 months of knowledge of this new disease. So regulations and expectations of behavior and social protocols may change.
Yes, absolutely. And so we're the ability with digital allows us to continuously update what those processes are. And as soon as we update that digitally, whatever is on that QR code link is automatically updated. And so we are going to have a set of ground protocols to start with, which are going to be your absolute have to, and what we're working on. And so those will be published in print. But as we continue, it's a moving target. We're putting out new policies and new content every single day. So it's something that is going to be continuously updated throughout the year, I think, for quite some time, until our new normal becomes normal, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that travelers are very interested to know what destinations are doing. I think our repeat guests, people who have been to Belize before, are going to be some of the primary targets that we're going to see visiting, because they're going to have some safety in knowing that they've been there, where they've stayed, they have a relationship with Belize already. So I think that those will be some of the people we'll see willing to come back sooner, as you were mentioning, and we agree. Do people have the disposable income, and are people feeling safe? I think that our type of traveler typically has a little more disposable income, because they're coming to an exotic destination, if you will. So we're hopeful that we'll see some of that come back sooner, and they're adventure travelers, so they're not scared. Everybody's a little bit scared in this market, but we know that those who are willing to jump in the water with sharks or dive in pitch black caves and go to ATM, they're a little less scared than the rest of our market. So hopefully what we can see from the response of everything we have been putting out online is that people are dying to come back. And I think all the hotels would agree that their guests are really anxious to just know when we're going to reopen, so that they can start to look towards rebooking and coming back to Belize.
Well, it's a proactive approach being taken, one which ought to be commended on the part of all the stakeholders who are willing to participate in this measure going forward. I think the primary concern for many would still have to do with a matter of personal safety when arriving in the country, not knowing exactly what the rest of the country may be doing, because while the tourism industry is moving in one particular direction to be able to put out what it is doing, you're looking at other sectors that may come into contact with visitors once they come into the country as well. And that for some represents an unknown or a variable.
Agreed. Yeah. And there are many parts, like I said, to what the safety protocols will be. And until until those are officially published out, I think you will see that it does cover a number of sectors as well. So it's almost every part of the tourism process, from you get off the plane, what happens at the airport, if you're doing a road transfer, what happens on your road transfer, if you're taking a municipal flight, how is that handled? And so every part of the tourism process, and I understand what you're saying in terms of allied services that service tourism, that people will come into contact just being a visitor. And I believe that is being looked at. And overall, the country will need to have protocols for every single industry as we go forward. Right now, the priority is tourism, but all the industries are working on their own versions of what these safety protocols are going to be.
So what this will be is kind of a how to and what to expect in traveling in the midst of a pandemic, from what your hotel expects of you and what you can expect at your hotel, to tour guides and transportation, maybe extra things they may have to bring, or extra time that they may have to allot during their travel.
Exactly right. And I think, besides some of the things that we are going to expect of them, it will largely be what you can expect in your hotel and what you should feel comfortable knowing that I'm using hotel as an example, and to be comfortable in knowing the precautions that your hotel or the destination has taken to make you feel comfortable to stay and visit Belize.
And so this is going to be created by the BTB and then published in the magazine and the ebook. So people will be able to see it digitally even before they travel to Belize. Now, in your conversation with the industry members, whether it be hotel or tour services, I mean, they're on life support. And, basically the only drip that they may get right now is from local tourism, and we'll find out what that does. So, in the business of publishing, you also need advertisers. So how are people even interested in being able to support, even though they know in the long term it's something they're going to have to do?
Yeah, so what we did is we worked out, we took a lot of time to try and work out what we could do for an advertiser, because indeed we also, as you so rightly said, publishing needs advertising. So we worked out an offer, which was the absolute best that we could do, that starts at 200 Belize a month. And we have offered everybody a payment plan. No matter how big or how small you are, you can pay it monthly instead of having to pay one lump sum fee. We know that even now those monthly fees are going to be difficult, but we felt that, you know, between 200 and 400 Belize, that it may be manageable for maybe 2 months before we, you know, even with the local travel, still, it's more when the airport opens that people will start to get back on their feet.
Yeah.
And so, to be honest, we've had an overwhelming response of people who were very grateful for the offer, very grateful to be able to participate, because if, you know, you do the math, bang for your buck over 12 months, you know, most advertising options wouldn't offer that payment plan. And so, you know, we've had some people that, you know, it's hard because you never know if you get people on a bad day, and things have been really difficult. So, I mean, undoubtedly,
It forces you to be innovative as well. Considering the current economic climate, you have to be able to adjust and meet people where they are on that economic scale.
Exactly. Exactly. And so we're working one-on-one with everybody, but more than anything, all we've had is, you know, thank you so much for offering us an opportunity to be visible going forward.
And payment plans, I think, are really just a kind way of being practical about the situation, because you're right. I think right now people are trying to figure out how to re-employ
keep the lights on.
some of their workers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we're very committed to this project, as we always have been. And so we're not here to say, well, you know, we've worked with so many people for over years and years. It's not like, well, we need this now. I mean, we're going to be able to ourselves hold off for a little while. But if we don't ramp up on what will be implemented through the payment plans, then it does become very difficult to market for Belize, for us.
And you also have a very active presence online with your publication. So what's the feedback you've been getting from travelers? You're right when you say there are a lot of repeat travelers. The fishing people always want to come to the best fishing spots. The divers want to come to the best diving spots. People who love Mayan sites and archaeology love what we have to offer. So what's been their feedback?
You know, like I said, most people are just like, when can we come back? I think some of what we see in terms of most popular and most interactions is anything regarding when the airport is going to be open. We have had very few responses, I think, very early on in terms of, you know, looking at the messaging and what people write us or comment, and very few felt very scared. Most of them were like, I am ready to get back to my destination. And they really want to continue to be informed. And so that's, you know, communication is the key here in any industry right now, making sure that you're in touch with your travelers, in touch with your guests. And I think a lot of hotels have been doing a really excellent job of that. And that is really propelling people to remain very comfortable and still very enthusiastic about Belize.
All right. So how do people get in touch so that they can be a part of the magazine, and when can we expect it to be completed?
So the magazine will be completed by the end of June. Digitally, you will probably see it by the middle of June, quite a bit earlier, obviously just because of the printing process. But very important that we have it before people even start to think of booking. So digitally, you're going to see that by the middle of June. Anybody who is interested in advertising can contact me or my office at our team. You can just go to macnavvisual.com. You'll find all the ways to reach us there. And we're here, we're ready to answer any questions. And, you know, it's not a one size fits all. So we're working with every single prospective stakeholder as they come. We have a call, we discuss what their needs, where they are in the process, and how we can work through it.
All right.
All right. Well, Tanya, thank you so much for filling us in on what's happening there. And we definitely look forward to seeing that publication by the end of June.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
All right.
All right, and we're going to go ahead and take a break now. And when we come back, we are going to be launching a new music video. We have Super G, who's going to be joining us this early morning, along with Cyril. So please stay tuned.
children can keep
And we're back, and we're moving into our final segment for today, where we have a bit of a treat for you. Usually we do music on Fridays, but you know, it's Annie, I can see the smile on your face. You love music, you love good music. And we are talking to Cyril Uruwe and Super G.
I can't hear no talk.
Good morning. Super G, you can hear us? It seems that Cyril is having some problems, but you can hear us?
I can hear.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, I know you're not normally an early morning guy. We see you late night dancing and lots of energy. But you, so we're grateful that you are up early with us today.
Yes. Yes, it's a pleasure, you know, to be here again.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this was from my end.
Okay.
Okay, we have you now?
Hi, Cyril. Okay. So, Super G, while Cyril gets his sound sorted out.
Okay, I can hear you now.
All
Okay,
right.
perfect.
It feels like a telephone commercial now. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Good.
Great. So let's go back to it. I want to step back and talk about something important. We have focused so much on private sector and businesses that have suffered in the state of emergency and the pandemic restriction on movements. But our artists have also been suffering too. Super G, how have things been going for you?
Well, okay, not as good as, you know, the normal.
Yeah.
In terms of having an extra to deal with extra activities, no, I'm not there. But in terms of having food on the table, having enough to pay my bills, yeah, I'm okay in that area.
Yeah, you missed some big gigs there. You missed that summer gig, that Easter gig, the Agric show gig.
Yes, yes.
And I know you frequent Mexico and Guatemala too.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But again, too, it gives me a time to go back and reevaluate my entire career, because I've been spending a lot of time, years, working on this on-stage performance, working on writing, working on producing and all that. But I haven't really taken the other part, the business aspect of it, that serious. So this gave me the chance to actually reevaluate that part and try to work on the business aspect of Super G. And that's where we are right now. And that's why now I'm in a legal battle, you know, with two major labels from out of the US, you know, for infringement, copyright infringement and things like that. So that's where I'm right now.
How has the COVID-19 situation forced you to be innovative? Because as a performing artist, and you look at being on stage and social distancing and ticket sales and all of that dynamic has since changed, or it will stand to change. How do you see yourself still being viable, notwithstanding all of these changes that are going to be taking place?
Well, first thing, royalties. That's a very important. That's one of the reasons I've been able to survive in this industry at this moment, because of royalties. Also, in terms of creativity, I try to work with what I have.
Yeah.
If I used to go to the studio with 2-3 people, now I go alone and try to do most of the recording by myself. In terms of this video that we shot, we had to abide by the rules set, you know, in terms of social distancing, that I only had like 3 or 4 people at a time at my house shooting this video, and we were also practicing the social distancing thing. And I believe the same thing Cyril did in Belize City, you know, on his end.
Interesting.
Yeah, Cyril, you want to share your perspective there?
Absolutely. Yeah, this video, it was intended to be produced. We wanted to go the full 9 yards, so to speak. But because we shot the video in the heart of the state of emergency pandemic, we had to be practicing social distancing. So most or all of the dancers, as a matter of fact, I would be communicating with them. Hey, I need you to do this. Okay, put the camera this way. I need this angle. It was fun. It was challenging, but fun at the same time. And I think this pandemic has caused all of us to actually exhaust our creativity. You know, that whatever we never know. We know how to do. We know we could do it now.
Yeah.
So, and now we're here with this video. And for the note, just for the record, for our viewers, this video, most of it's a mixture of, you have mobile phone shooting some clips, you have professional cameras. So when you see it, you will know that as much as we put in all the effort to make it as great as we can, we had a lot of limitations.
Interesting.
Well, you know, I think that you're right when you say that just that the time in the pandemic has taught us how we just have to make use of the technology that we do have on our hands. And that does include our mobile phones and
Right.
You know, being able to create content there. A lot of people have been using the Facebook Lives, and Super G, we saw that you were featured as one of the performers in one of the DJs' show. Tell us about that experience, doing a performance from home.
Yeah, actually, it was my first time doing, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, we actually did the entire thing at home, and it was a pre-recorded session.
Okay.
We recorded it by using tracks, and also we had the guys from DX Band doing their part at home, actually playing in some of those like keyboard lines live, the bass live. We actually played some of a lot of those instruments live.
Yeah.
So we could have pulled this off.
That's interesting.
No, I think it's cool. A living room concert. And we've seen it in other parts of the world as well. People using same technology as we are, things like Zoom and video calls to be able to create music together. And so you guys are doing that too. So Super G, you're in Dangrega?
Yes, I'm in Dangrega.
And Cyril, you're in Belize City?
I'm currently in Belize City, yes.
All right, so tell us about the collaboration and how that worked.
In terms of bringing the video together?
Yeah.
When Super G first approached me, he said, "Why I have this song, it's a cultural song. It relates to what we do almost every year, the Chericanare dance. And it is pronounced, you have different pronunciation of the dance. You have Chacanare, Checanare, Chericanare, for those watching, because some people might say, he pronounced that wrong. So let me...
But Isanu will correct us right now. He's ready. What is it supposed to be, Isanu?
Chericanare.
Chericanare.
Yeah, there's no abbreviation or there's no shortening of it based on region. It's one word, Chericanare. But yeah, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, so all over the country we have different pronunciation, but that kind of song, right, Isanu, so I'll take your word with it now.
Yeah.
So Super G and I, we work on different projects based on a per need basis. So when he reached out to me, I listened to the song and I said, I like it. And I've always been one to push culture, to push our artists, especially during this pandemic.
Yeah.
Hardly anybody is doing anything. And with my background in technology, I have the wherewithal to get things to mobilize and make the impossible possible, so to speak, with all the gadgets that I play around with every day. So we talked on the phone. I gave him some ideas. We bounced ideas back and forth. I reached out to my network, people who I know that might be interested in being a part of the video. And most of it was, I think the most difficult part, personally, for me, when I'm doing a video, I like to be involved, very much involved in the shooting process, because if you know anything about video editing, your editing will be very, very smooth, will go easy if you have great shots. So that was the most difficult part for me, trying to give instructions over the phone as to the camera angle, give me a full view, a full frame, give me just half body, I want facial features. So getting all those pieces together, that it was fun but challenging.
Did you also have to let go of some of your perfectionism in production?
That was a killer, yeah.
We're all feeling it.
You're essentially directing.
And eventually, and Super G, we share similar traits. He's one thing I admire about him, if he sets a goal, he wants to accomplish it. And this video was produced based on little to no budget, so to speak.
Yeah.
Everyone who participated, they gave of themselves. So I would work on the video based on the window of time I would have, whatever time I have or I would make to work on the video. So Super would say, hey, you know, what's up, when you come out? You think you're done by tomorrow? I said, why? I need another weekend. Yeah, so that's how it came about, and now it came to fruition. This is what we have.
Okay.
I think that's an interesting segue for us to go to the video.
All right, so we're gonna check it out. So Super G, you wanna set us up for the debut, the Open Your Eyes debut of Chari Canary. See, I already got it wrong. Chari Canary.
Thanks for that correction, Isani.
Yes.
No problem, brother. No problem at all.
Yes. Check out my brand new video premiering here on Channel 5, Chari Canary.
This are the new dance we all away. Yes, it is easy as 1, 2, 3. Watch how we do it and you will see. La 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 la. La 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 la. Wine at the double. Winey wine. Oh yeah. Wine at the double. Winey wine. Oh yeah. La 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 la. Chakana, 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 chakana. Yes, it is easy as 1, 2, 3. Watch how we do it and you will see. La 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 la. La 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 la. Wine at the double. Winey wine. Oh yeah. Wine at the double. Winey wine. Oh yeah. La 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 la.
Hey, I'm a win. All right. Nobody can play over there. I pass. Man, fire. Domino boy.
Man win, man.
Chakana, 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 chakana.
Then also you do the chakanari. Why not gaggle? Why not be gaggle, bra?
Gaggle. So how you do it then?
Show any man how to do the thing powerful.
How to do the thing.
Powerful.
All right.
It's an interesting end.
Yeah.
The wine have to be gaggle.
Which means?
It has to be
Gaggle
greasy or
mean
slippery.
your waist have to be supple.
Yeah.
Smooth. So it's going to be a smoother move. All right, I can definitely see how people are going to be dancing to this one. And I see that you've mixed in some of the videos, as you said, some of the feedback that Super G has gotten. How do you feel about the final product?
Sorry, that's a question for me?
Either one of you. How do you feel about the final product? Yeah.
Super, you want to go first?
Yeah, man, from the first time I got the first draft, I was excited because I wasn't.
Oh, no. Okay, seems like we may have lost that connection. Do we still have Cyril with us?
Yes,
okay,
I'm
Cyril,
still
pick it up.
here.
Yeah. Tell us about your overall feedback, your overall reaction to the video.
I am satisfied with it. I still look at it. I kind of tired of watch it, but only because I have been working on it. It's something that I donated my time to work on it, so I have to keep repeating.
Yeah.
But I'm satisfied with the outcome, and I also want to add that the dance, for those who know, the experts, for our elders who know about the Charicanari.
Charicanari, yeah.
I supposed to know this, right? I'm trying to make sure I get
You
the
make
right
me feel so much better that I can't get it right.
Well, good. Charicanari is a seductive dance. I can't give you details as to the year or when it first got started. There are many people who know about this way more than I do. But it's a seductive dance, and hence it's really grassroots. So what you're wearing doesn't matter. You could, in a Garifuna, we have this word called chagagua. You could just be raggedy, it don't matter what you're wearing. So it's a seductive, keeping that in mind, it's a seductive dance, and it doesn't matter what you're wearing. And a very close friend of mine gave me feedback, and she said, you know what, Cyril, I don't see no specific particular movement in the video where they could allude to the dance and say, oh, this is the Charicanari dance. And so I want to address that with the dance. I think what Super and Super G could correct us later on, what he's focusing on as to the movement in the Charicanari dance is when they do that movement. That's more distinct and obvious. But the younger ones that are dancing in the circle, they are flexible, they are free to do whatever movement they want to do. But for the most part, they have to be seductive. They won't have to be gaggly Marlene.
No, can I interject quickly here as well, Cyril? I think traditionally when we talk about the Charicanari dance, we're looking at the 2-foot call, because that's the initial, that's what we've learned culturally in terms of this particular song and dance, so to speak. And when I listened to the song itself, to the instrumentation, I noticed that, and maybe this was something for Super G, but when I listened to the instrumentation, you're using certain samples from Andy Palacios' 2-foot call. There's that little section in there, right? I think, it alludes to music that he once did, speaking to the same 2-foot call Charicanari performances. Let's get your way in. Like I said, it would have been a question for Super G.
I think he's back on now. Yeah, Super G?
He's back on.
Okay, well, let's start with you first, Cyril.
I wanted to put a little bit of Super G twist on it, because the Charicanari thing has been recorded and re-recorded. So many versions of it have been recorded over the years. But this song particularly, the Motagan that you hear in it, was the idea came from the Babylon Warriors 2-foot call. I think that's what they did featuring Andy. Yeah, that's where that idea came from.
That's like back in 1993.
Yeah, because the Charicanari have that doom 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 doom. You know, I wanted to make it a little different to put that Super G twist. You know, everything I do, even when it comes to punta music, when I started, I wanted to put that little twist to it that I came up with. A lot of Spanish punta song, you know, even with the beat, the programming of the beat, I wanted different. I wanted it different than everything else that was, you know, that was going on. I like to put that little twist with, but not losing the essence and the meaning of the Charcanari. Because that would have been a disrespect to the Garifuna culture.
You know, Cyril touched on one of the questions that I wanted to ask, but let me get it to you, Super G, in terms of instructional dances are always, I mean, they're very popular. And one of the things we've seen over the course of the pandemic is, one, Belizeans have discovered TikTok, and there's a lot of dancing that happens on TikTok. And a lot of people have been dancing to your music as well. Why not take the opportunity to create a dance so that all the TikTokers, Belize and beyond, would be trying to be doing this dance online?
You know, that was, I mean, you're right, Marlene. That was exactly what I was thinking just even before doing this video. Thinking about the TikTok thing whereby, you know, I did a slight move where I put my hand like that.
So we gotta get our Belizean TikTokers on that. They gotta start doing the Super G dance so that it goes viral.
Yes, you know, maybe I could have Cyril, have Marlene, Isani.
Why, you know, I see it behind the cameras.
I'm too old for TikTok, so, but there are lots of people who still do it. And, you know, it's been fascinating to see. I see you've actually reposted a number of the videos that you've gotten so far. What's that like when someone from some far-flung corner of the world is dancing a Super G tune or trying to dance?
Yeah, you know, I expect it. It feels good, you know, knowing that people from all over the world are listening to your music, you know, seeing Muevelo having over 4 million views. You know, it goes to show you that Belizean music is really expanding. It's reaching out to the other side of the world. And so it feels good, especially, you know, when they send their TikTok video to me, you know, it's I can't really express how I feel, but it really feel good.
So now we'll look forward to the Cherry Canary Challenge.
Yeah.
Yes. We are started from now.
Yes, absolutely. Cyril first, we already decided. Then Isani.
You'll have a tough
you
time.
Know, you guys, you might not want to depend on that. You have turned skeleton a bit.
You don't worry. We'll hesitate, but there are people out there already practicing the dance that they're going to record. That is for sure. So,
I bring it out, I put it out there for the crowd, Marlene. That's my part.
Yeah.
All right.
I try to stay from in front of the camera.
All right, so Super G, you look like you have a little bit of space there. Show me what the Cherry Canary dance would look like.
Let's see if I can.
All right, so if you step way back. I know you never expect to, but I want to make sure when we try it, we get it right.
See, you go down with your hand. And the reason why I put my hand like this, because it signifies the horn of the bull.
Yeah.
The bull horn. So, hand like this.
All right, and then we're going to go down. All right, and then if...
Down, and you come up. Down, and you come up.
And then there's the bucking movement too.
One, where I believe Cyril will show you how to do the traditional Charcanari dance.
The one that he says is gagule. The one that he says is gagule.
Well, I was going to say, you know, any Belizean doing that, I think that's a really great, easy start. But just make sure you can show your punta moves too, right? And it has to be, what's the word?
Been trying to get me to dance for years on stage.
At some point you will. Maybe you'll be so happy when there's a mass gathering again, you'll actually get out on stage and
break
dance.
out his two-step.
Who knows? Who knows? Make sure you're having a camera ready, because it's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime.
One other quick thing that I wanted to touch on. I like how you guys included the whole COVID-19 thing with the masks. I think that part of the video stands out. We're living in COVID times, right? I keep saying that, and you found an interesting way of incorporating that into the music video. Whose idea was that to change it from the cow horn to have the actual COVID-19 on the mask?
It was my idea, Isani. And you're absolutely right. You actually kind of answer your own question. I reflected every morning I wake up. I did a session with you guys not too long ago on meditation. I meditate and I think about what's been happening, and I commune within myself and I say, you know what, people, it doesn't matter if this video is not a full-fledged production, but I want that if and when someone views this video a decade from today, they will remember how COVID impacted Belize and the world. So I decided that, you know what, traditionally, this is the type of mask they use in the Charikanara dance. So, I decided to give each mask a different name related to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Nice, wonderful touch.
Well, I think you have just added one more thing to the list of things people want to do on their quarantine list, and I think it's going to be to record themselves doing this dance. It is on YouTube, so people can be able to check out the video there, right?
Absolutely. It'll be posted on YouTube today.
Any final words, any shout out to your fans, Super G?
Yes, as usual, I always want to thank the fans for supporting me. I want to thank God for giving me that talent to share with the audience. And I want to ask people, the fans, to go on Super G Belize on my YouTube channel and check out, this video as well as my other videos.
Perfect.
All right, guys, thank you for allowing us to showcase the newest music video by Super G. And we look forward to seeing everyone dancing it all over the world this
Thank
time.
you as well. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, thanks, guys. You guys stay safe.
You too.
All right. And from some Charikanari dancing to finding out about space debris. That's a big jump.
Dr. Binox.
Dr. Binox. Okay, parents, it's time. You could practice your Charikanari dance while the kids sit in front of the television for Kids Time. Kids Time is brought to you by J&W Shopping Mart, and Dr. Binox will be teaching us about what is space debris. So let's check it out.